How to put everything no. President of the Republic of Liberia, His Excellency Honorable Joseph Monrovia, Honorable members of the Parliament present, acting dean and members of the Cabinet, doyen and members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of international organizations, special representative of the ECOWAS President to Liberia, the chairman and commissioners of the Independent National Human Rights Commission, our distinguished youth group, students, members of our distinguished community, and all ECOWAS citizens present. I'm honored for this brief moment to serve as your master of ceremony. Before much to do, please permit me to proceed. The maiden celebration of the ECOWAS Human Rights Day, Monrovia, Liberia, 16 January 2017, Monrovia City Hall, 2nd Street, Monrovia, Liberia, from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Program of events. 2017 celebration, celebrating with his team, promoting and protecting human rights, women's rights, towards the attainment of ECOWAS Vision 2020. Sub-theme of this great celebration will be as follows: ECOWAS human rights system, the women's rights in political governance and participation, women's rights in economic empowerment and development, women's rights in mediation, peace and security, youth and young women's rights. What do we expect? I'll quote, the enhancement of ECOWAS human rights system with specific action, attainable action on women's rights. We want to deepen the awareness of the process and the methodology to enrich women's involvement in the political government to promote human rights in our political government. We want to proffer the sustainable measures to promote women's involvement and contribution in economic empowerment and development programs. Also, we want to strengthen women's role and their contribution in the process of mediation, peace, and security. And finally, it's intended to enhance the promotion and the protection of our youth and our young women's rights. Having said that, I want to call on Your Excellency, Ambassador Tundi Ajosomo, Special Representative of the ECOWAS President in Liberia, to give us our opening remarks. Honorable Ambassador.
Let me start by wishing everybody a happy new year. Excellency, Madam Maiden, President of the Republic of Liberia, and Chair of Authority of the ECOWAS Head of State, Your Excellency, the Vice President, the Dean, and honorable members of the Cabinet of Liberia, members of the Senate and other representatives here present, the acting chairman and commissioners of the Independent National Human Rights Commission of Liberia, Your Excellencies, the Dean, the Diplomatic Corps, ambassadors and representatives of international organizations here present, members of the civil and human rights organizations, our distinguished students here present, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start with the famous quote of Madiba Nelson, who says, to deny people of their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. Now, it therefore brings me immense pleasure to have the opportunity to give an opening remarks at this auspicious and historic occasion of the Maiden celebrations of the ECOWAS Human Rights Day. After the adoption and declaration of 16th January of every year as ECOWAS Human Rights Day by the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States and Government at its 50th Ordinary Summit held on December 17th, 2016 in Abuja, Nigeria. President Souza expressed the ECOWAS Commission profound gratitude to the people and government of Liberia for providing this enabling environment in which this celebration is being held, and especially for providing official authorization for the celebration of this day through a proclamation by the President. Shall we give a round of applause to the President of Nigeria? Let me also express appreciation to the co-conveners of this event, our friends and partners of the Independent National Commission of Human Rights of Liberia and the UNDP for supporting and accepting to co-convene this laudable and timely initiative. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me begin therefore, on behalf of the ECOWAS Commission, to congratulate the entire community citizenry, and most especially Our Excellency President Helen Johnson Sirleaf, under whose leadership as chair of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, this declaration was attained, and whose sterling political credentials as the first women elected president in Africa serve as inspiration for the joys of 16th January of every year to be celebrated as ECOWAS Human Rights Day. You are aware, this day coincides to the day that Madam President was sworn in as President of Liberia on 16th January 2006. It is noteworthy that Madam President's political astuteness, which is imbued in our courage, doggedness, compassion, and patriotism, made her to attain this supreme position in Liberia, could therefore not have been allowed to vanish into history unrecognized. This gallant effort needs to be celebrated and indelibly engraved in our memory, as well as made to serve as a model for strengthening democracy, good governance, respect for human rights, and the rule of law. The 2017 celebration theme, promoting and protecting women's rights towards the attainment of ECOWAS Vision 2020, is very apt, as we all are aware that Africa, and indeed West Africa, especially Liberia, has a rich and enviable history of women's activism and leadership. Liberia's history is replete with women of substance who gave their all to ensure that the country enjoys prominence, peace, and stability today. In both past and recent history, the sacrifices made by such women, such as Madam INCHR, first female African president of the United Nations, General Assembly, Madam B. Mussolini Cooper, former interim president of Liberia, Madam Yema Shannon Walser, first female judge, Madam Iseta Roberts Arnold, first female Liberian, Madam Ruth Sandope, recently departed former chair of the Council of State during Liberia's civil crisis, Madam Mary Brown, Chief Swako, Madam Teresa Lee Sherman, Justice Gladys Johnson, Madam Clavenda Bright Parker, first Liberian female pharmacist, and several other too numerous to mention. These women were the torchbearers, of course, the leader of the party, Madam Ellen Johnson, for the various women-led and women-centered initiatives that dominated global peace and security discourse from the 50s to late 90s and the mid-2000s. You will agree with me that the advocates of UN Security Council 1325 of 2000, which stipulates greater involvement of women in peace and security matters, must have been inspired by the role that Liberian women in particular and West African women in general played in resolving the violent conflicts that were prevalent in our recent history. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Maiden celebration, which places a particular focus on the promotion and protections of women's rights in all its ramifications, creates a leader platform, especially in Liberia, for the citizenry to engage with the government in a constructive manner as the primary duty bearer, as well as the other relevant actors that are involved in the promotion and protections of human rights to address the numerous challenges facing women and young girls in Liberia as well as in the South region. With regards to the ECOWAS Vision strategic document, we know that the key emphasis is how to move from an ECOWAS of member states to an ECOWAS of the people. Needless to say that an ECOWAS of the people must ensure that the rights of women and children and those that are marginalized are protected at all times as important citizens of our community. With respect to social and economic rights of women, we call on both the government and the private sector to scale up their commitment towards the empowerment of women. Stereotype issues and concepts that are designed to promote men alone to hold certain positions should be strongly discouraged, in keeping with the spirit of Article 30, Paragraph 5, and Article 40 of the ECOWAS Protocol on Democracy and Development. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to conclude by recalling the courageous efforts and contributions of civil society and human rights organizations during and after the Liberian Civil War period, such as the Center for Democratic Empowerment, headed by INCHR, Foundation for International Dignity Fight, Foundation for Human Rights and Democracy, National Human Rights Center of Liberia, which served as a precursor, and Liberia Justice, Peace and Development Commission, as well as several other similar institutions that champion the cause of fighting human rights abuses in Liberia. Finally, while I wish you all a happy ECOWAS Human Rights Day, I would like to specially wish the Liberian women more fruitful and productive enhancement, as well as enjoyment of their human rights. I thank you most sincerely for your kind attention.
Thank you, Ambassador. Our next item will be the welcome and introductory address by Commissioner Tony B. Colley, Revenue, Vice and Acting Chairperson of the Independent National Human Rights Commission of Liberia.
Our guest of honor, Her Excellency Mrs. Ellen Johnson, President of the Republic of Liberia, His Excellency Joseph Akai, Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. Liberia, His Excellency Maiden Manfrey, Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General for the Rule of Law, His Excellency Marcel D. Swanza, President of ECOWAS, His Excellency Babatunde Ajusumo, Special Representative of ECOWAS, President in Liberia, members of the diplomatic corps, honorable members of the Liberian legislature, present, honorable members of the Supreme Court of Liberia, honorable ministers of government, fellow commissioners, other government officials, the fourth estates, members of the National Civil Society Council of Liberia, the Interreligious Council, members of the Liberian Bar Association, representatives of academic institutions, members of the National Traditional Council, civil society organizations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The INCHR is honored to be selected to lead the organizational implementation of this great program, and also by my preferment to welcome you all and deliver the introductory address. I am therefore proud to wholeheartedly welcome, on behalf of the Independent National Commission on Human Rights, the government and people of Liberia, our foreign dignitaries to Liberia, and everyone to this celebration and honorary program of one of our best, His Excellency Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Africa's first female democratically elected president. And again, I say welcome to all of you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is interesting to note that before the creation of ECOWAS on May 28, 1975, with the goal of economic cooperation and regional integration, the collective territory known today as Africa was made of aggregation of states that had emerged from different colonial experiences and administrations. As a result, 3 different important official languages emerged, including English, French, and Portuguese. This qualified West Africa to the colonial and neo-colonial classification of Anglophone, Francophone, and Lusophone. Consequently, most if not all of West African states fought for political independence in order to attain statehood and exercise basic freedoms, civil and political rights as stated in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights adopted by the United Nations on 10 December 1948 and specified in category in 1966 into what is today known as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. It is important to note also that these instruments were enlightenment to colonize people everywhere in the world and all the world over to organize and resist all forms of captivity and colonialism. Although ECOWAS was founded for economic cooperation and regional integration, and some progress has been made thus far, but democratic governance, which still remains as a challenge in West Africa, is the surest path to ensuring human rights, peace, development, and reconciliation. The INCHR and other national human rights institutions in West Africa, and the world over, on this day commend and congratulate the authorities of heads of state and government of the Economic Community of West Africa, ECOWAS, for breaking new ground for declaring January 16th of each year as West Africa Human Rights Day. The National Human Rights Institution profoundly thanks the ECOWAS authorities and heads of state and term this declaration as not only commendable and historic, but also as a declaration of warfare, which will allow us, many human rights institutions and rights defenders, to keep heads of state and government feet close to the fire, to ensure the promotion and sustaining of good governance which include best practice of international human rights standards and absolute submission, and I repeat, absolute submission to the tenets of pluralistic and participatory democracy. This was, and strongly we still believe, will ensure political stability, reconciliation, economic progress, and development. While this occasion is meant to celebrate Madam President and commemorate the historic role she has and continues to play in Africa's political development, we must also commend all those who fought and died, and those who continue to fight for democracy and human rights. This struggle in our minds is unabated, and it is for our lifelong crusade in the balance of human rights to ensure at all times that duty bearers are both accountable and responsible. We celebrate our president and his achievements today and recognize Paul as a true mentor for African women and girls and even men and boys. We must caution ECOWAS authority and heads of state that mere declaration with our practical steps is not enough and could be provocative. We also demand that respective governments of ECOWAS that is hitherto ratified and domesticated best international human rights instruments, including child rights, women and girls protection, and natural resource governance. We also call on the Liberian people to register in order to be able to vote in the October 2017 general presidential election. And the same thing, we challenge all of the political parties and leaders to pattern their parties and individual platforms or manifestos in ways and manners in which they promote and protect the rights of the Liberian people. To conclude, for and on behalf of the National Human Rights Institutions, the children, women, girls, the people of West Africa, Africa, and the world, we commend ECOWAS for breaking new ground for first time. We promise to hold the leaders' feet to the fire because we are not your declared warfare for the human rights in Africa is a call to back for rights defense. Here met again, members of the diplomatic corps, government officials, civil organization. I want to welcome you at the celebration and wish you a very good program. God bless you.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. We have special remarks by 7 different categories. I want to solicit your indulgence to please ask you to remain within time. Probably I've been actually organized to inform you. The Federation of Liberian Youth Fly, if you are here, please come up. This way, which was unacceptable, with all our prior notices about this program. So we call on the Women NGO Secretariat of Liberia, Monrovia.
Your Excellency, Madam Ellen Mr. Mr. Vice President, Honorable Joseph, the ECOWAS Ambassador to Liberia, UN, AU, and other members of the High Table, dignitaries, the diplomatic corps, and all government officials, students, the press, the Fourth Estate, ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very happy and proud to be here again. For us women, this is another proud moment in our own opportunity the Liberian people have given us 12 years to lead the country. I say it so because the presidency of Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is the presidency of the Liberian people, but in particular and especially for the women of Liberia. We do not draw back from this. We've been proud of your presidency, Madam President, since you became president. And we've been in there with you. You like to use the word in the trenches. We've been there with you in the trenches. And we are happy that, again, you are getting another laurel. We accept it along with you. We don't want no one to feel that the Liberian women are against each other. We are not against each other. We are one. We are not homogeneous, yes, but we are not against each other. We back Mrs. Sirleaf. She's made us proud for 12 years. She situated the government rightly. We got policies, we got laws made in this country, not only to promote gender, not only to promote women issues here, but to put the country as state with international affairs. With other nations, with ECOWAS. Besides, she's been laying the foundation to get us, we destroy all our infrastructures, to get us to replace those things we've lost. We are happy, Madam President, that this year, we can see this year, starting from last year, all the work you've been doing, we see it coming to fruition. Thank you. We're not going to say, we women, we are not going to say, oh, why it didn't happen 8 years ago, or 7 years, or 6 years. That's immaterial to the fact that it is happening. And so, I want to join ECOWAS on behalf of the women NGOs and civil society, people and women of Liberia in general. I chair the Women NGO Secretariat representing the 15 county women all over Liberia. And so we say, Madam President, congratulations, yeah. We are very proud of you, and we stand behind you. We see that your term, because when your term is successful, other women's term will be successful in Liberia, in Africa, and in the world. So we say
thank you, Madam, for staying within 3 minutes. At this time, I will call on Honorable Charles Salinto. He's the Minister of Youth and Sport.
Madam President, Vice President, the Special Representative of the ECOWAS President, and because of time, please allow me to stand on all other existing protocols. Today is a very, very, very special day. I've celebrated many other special days before, but this one is just different. It's different because, one, we are celebrating a new ECOWAS. Vision 2020 espouses that we're not looking at ourselves as just ECOWAS of state anymore. We're moving towards an ECOWAS that eliminates borders and expects us to look at each other as one people. So it is in this that I see great opportunity for trade. I see great opportunity for exploring the advantages of one identity. I see great opportunities for employment. I also see this freedom of movement in a way that will benefit all of us. But it comes with its own challenges. Now the challenge is thrown to us. if the gates are going to be open where young people and others will come into this country to tap opportunities, then we must prepare our young people, our women, to be able to go into other places as well and tap. And this is what we do at the Ministry of Youth and Sports. We, under this government, the emphasis has been on technical vocational education and training, and also to strengthen our education system. This president has been very keen on this, and because of that, I want to join everyone in celebrating our president today on this very, very big day. Madam President, we say thank you, but I want you to also know that in December, the young people from across the countries of West Africa gather in this country, Liberia, and they recognize what the elders are recognizing today, that you are a strong leader. You are a leader that models the best of leadership. They, in fact, have awarded you a special award. Is a role model of democracy for West African youth. So for that award, I know a special time and place will be designated for that award to be given by the young people themselves. But let me express another satisfaction today. I am very happy to see on such a big stage that the young people are recognized. And in fact, given the space to come and express themselves, that no one speaks for them, but that they will come and speak for themselves. So I will not say much more because the young man comes and I'm sure he will speak. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Congratulations to ECOWAS for dedicating this day that draws light to human rights and the protection of women's rights, I mean, in a very special way. Thank you so much to all.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Now we have Honorable Julia Duncan Cassett, she's the Minister of Gender, Children, Social Protection.
Children and social protection. Madam President, Mr. Vice President, Ambassador, members of the high table, and if I'm permitted to stand on existing protocol. Let me start with this quote. Women's right is the fight for the idea that women should have equal rights with men. It is an honor to be here today celebrating ECOWAS' first Human Rights Day in honor of Her Excellency, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, President of the Republic of Liberia, for her achievement in promoting human rights, inclusive governance, and the protection of the rights of women and youth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in May of 2015, I headed the Liberian delegation to the 22nd session of the Universal Periodic Review Working Group of the Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland. The Universal Periodic Review is a unique process which involves a review of human rights records of all UN member states under the auspices of Human Rights Council. This provides the opportunity for each state to declare what actions they have taken to improve the human rights situation in their countries and to fulfill their human rights obligations. Liberia becomes notable human rights achievement since the election of our President, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, in 2005, and highlighting her records of good governance. For instance, in 2011, we held our second peaceful national presidential and legislative elections since the end of the Civil War in 2003. And in 2013, we observed 10 years of unbroken peace, an important milestone in our country's history. I think she deserves a clap for that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the government of Liberia, through Her Excellency, has developed a national security strategy in light of the anticipated drawdown of the United Nations mission in Liberia, enhancing
human rights compliance within the security sector is an integrated part of this strategy. Ensuring access to justice is also a key component provided for through the progressive establishment of justice and security regional hubs, which will enhance service delivery, particularly outside the capital of Monrovia. Liberia has also implemented a number of policies to strengthen the rule of law and foster the protection of all human rights, including women and children. These include the Reconciliation Roadmap, which implements recommendations made by the Liberian Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the Agenda for Transformation, which prioritizes development of the justice sector and addresses cross-cutting issues impacting upon human rights and vulnerable groups, and the National Human Rights Action Plan, which provides for the implementation of Liberia's regional and international human rights obligation and of the recommendations made during the Universal Periodic Review. Liberia has also rectified a number of human rights and human rights related instruments. In 2012, we rectified the Convention of the Rights of People with Disability, and we did the Children's Law. In 2014, we ratified the Protocol on the Status of African Court of Justice and Human Rights at the Kampala Convention and the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance. These are few among several human rights achievements, and I have no doubt that this fifth ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of States and the Government of Economic Community of West Africa, ECOWAS for short, set aside the 16th day of January every year as ECOWAS Human Rights Day. Thank you, ECOWAS. Now that our country is beginning to emerge from one of its greatest crises in recent memory, we look forward to engaging with renewed vigor and in the progress of enhancing human rights protection in Liberia. Let me close by saying, no nation or region can rise to the height of glory unless women are side by side with men. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We have a little adjustment in our program. Of course, after the master copy, we take a special remark from the United States Deputy Chief of Mission in Liberia. If you are here, the organizers have asked me to especially recognize you.
Your Excellency, Madam President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Your Excellency, Vice President Borkai, Ambassador from ECOWAS, others at the head table, the Dean and members of the Diplomatic Board, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and Happy New Year. It's a great honor to be here today to join with you in launching the ECOWAS Human Rights Day. This is a great idea because it will remind us every year in January of the importance of human rights, and the hope and challenge will be that we keep remembering and working towards that all year long. In the United States, as you know, human rights is a very important and fundamental American value. It's something that we have been working on and trying to improve on throughout our history, and we still are doing that today. Another interesting point is that today in the United States, we're commemorating the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who, as you all know, was a tireless crusader, not only for civil rights, but for human rights in all of their forms. So I can think of no more appropriate day to launch such an event, and I think it's also particularly fitting than it be to honor President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who has done so much for human rights in Liberia and beyond. So, congratulations to ECOWAS, and to Liberia and the Human Rights Commission for all the great work that you've done and will do this year and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I've just been informed that the Honorable Minister of Justice is on an official assignment. He will not be here, but he has asked his director for the Division of Human Rights at the Ministry of Justice to deliver his special remarks. Mr. Tuwet, I read you. Good evening, please.
Excellency President Maiden, His Excellency President Joseph Monrovia, members of the diplomatic corps, members of the cabinet, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I bring warm greetings on behalf of the Minister of Justice as we meet today to celebrate this auspicious occasion marking ECOWAS Human Rights Day in honor of Our Excellency Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. To begin, I'd like to state that Liberia has been in the vanguard of the promotion and protection of human rights for as far back as history can recall. This brings to mind that nearly a century before the adoption of the INCHR, of which Liberia is the founding member, the people of Liberia decided to solemnly associate and constitute themselves a free, sovereign, and independent state, whereby they adopted the Constitution with a Declaration of Rights, consistent with Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which alludes to the principle of universal freedom and equality. Our Constitution provides that all men are born equally free and independent and have certain natural, inherent, and inalienable rights, among which are the rights to enjoy a decent life and liberty, equality, and equal protection under the law. On the basis of this equality, and making true our pledge to uphold fundamental rights, Liberia translated this commitment into reality on May 1st, 1951, when we held our general elections in which universal suffrage was first enjoyed. As a result of universal suffrage and the respect for women's rights, Liberia is noted for funding women who have made outstanding contributions to politics both at home and abroad, to name a few. Angie Elizabeth Rose-Arnold was a Liberian diplomat and jurist, noted for being the only African female president of the United Nations General Assembly. She was also the second woman from any nation to head the UN. She also served as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. History was made also in West Africa. For the first time, a woman, Ms. Ruth Sandal Perry, was unanimously elected at a meeting of West African heads of state to become the third chair of Liberia's ruling council. Most prominent of these, Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, came on the political scene against a background of perilous political struggle, but stood the test of time. Madam Sirleaf continued to work to support women's empowerment and gender equality through our NGO, Let's Try More. Her wealth of experience came from serving in a staff position of the United Nations and the World Bank, respectively. She was later overwhelmingly elected to a democratic process as Liberia and Africa's first female president. Noted for making history, Her Excellency was elected from amongst her peer of regional leaders as the first female to head ECOWAS as chair of heads of states of government, through which a proclamation by this unique body declaring January 16 each year as ECOWAS Human Rights Day in our honor. Additionally, she She has successfully steered Liberia through 11 years of peace and stability in the face of economic challenges, a feat which can only be achieved by the respect for the rule of law and the protection of human rights. Our government is also noted for the enforcement of the International Covenant on the right to be free from enforced disappearance, which has neither been signed or exceeded by our government. Our leadership has seen Liberia as the first African nation to sign the Table Mountain Declaration, the passage of the Freedom of Information Act, which has ushered in a wave of unprecedented press freedom and freedom of speech like has never been experienced in our nation's history. Our ascendancy to the presidency has seen a record number of Liberian females aspiring for higher education as well as their participation in the national political process. On the international scene, our government has raised Liberia's human rights record to a new dimension. In 2005, an intergovernmental initiative was established under the name of the Steering Committee of the National Human Rights Action Plan for Liberia. And additionally, the human rights awareness. She has successfully now to who you, let me go to the special thank you, Your Excellency, for the wisdom she has used to run our dear country for the past decade and for once again making Liberia proud. I also want to thank all of you, our development partners, ministers of government and heads of agencies, for taking the time to be here. God bless us all.
Before we call on Mr. Wizard, after an appeal and apology from the representative of FLAG and the approval by the Independent National Human Rights Commission of his apology, I want to beg the audience, despite the lateness, give him an opportunity. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Madam President, Mr. Vice President, members of the High Table, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me again apologize officially that much is being done, and the young people involvement, especially in this year, is very cardinal. So our lateness here was never intentional, and so I wish to apologize again on behalf of the Federation of Liberia. The issue of youth and women empowerment is very cardinal, and Liberia have made some significant steps towards empowering young people and women alike. Now more than ever before in our history, we've seen the unprecedented appointment and a space being created for young people's participation